So you've hit a great drive, you've got a wedge into the green. It's time to attack. Let's attack, attack. But wait, stop. The truth about wedge play might just shock you. In today's video, I'm going to show you the truth about wedge play, how close you should hit your wedges, and some of this data is going to really shock you. I've also got a real treat for you at the end of the video where I've done this huge test with a special guest whose wedge play is a little bit, should we say, infamous? I'm also going to share with you some of my best tips to help you hit your wedge closer. Now, if you like the information in today's video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button while you're down there, and also look in my description. I do a free weekly newsletter with loads of free golf tips. So let's start by checking out the Aros database when it comes to your wedge play. So the first thing we notice is around the 100-yard mark. A scratch golfer, they are averaging around 30 feet proximity. 15 handicap golfer, they're averaging 48 feet proximity. That's an 18 feet further from the hole, from the 15 handicapper to the scratch handicapper, which we would expect. As the shot distance increases, what we see, as you'd expect, is the gap in proximity widens. And I mean the gap between a lower handicapper and a higher handicapper. So as in, the lower handicapper are much better at flatlining their line on this graph from 50 to 54 to 100 to 104 yards, where we see a steeper increase in distance away from the hole as we go up to a 15 handicapper, and we see the same as we go up to 20s and higher handicap golfers. The scratch golfer, as you would expect, is more consistent. How could we make you more consistent as well? So let's do some housekeeping. Let's do some good wedge basics. To begin with, let's start with ball position. So I want you to feel your ball position is somewhere opposite your buttons on your shirt. So the middle of your chest is a great way of feeling where your ball position is. Now you should, with your wedge, practice hitting balls from your back foot even up to your front foot. You should really experiment with your sweet spot of ball position within that playing field, because you will hit some wedges where you do want to knock it down back, and you might hit some where you want to send it up in the air. But a good basic starting point for lots of golfers is getting that ball position somewhere nearer the middle of their stance, but basically opposite the buttons on my shirt is where that ball is nicely positioned. So let's think about width of stance and where your pressure should be in the ground. So a common problem I see with wedge players is they stand like they're hitting a driver really wide. This encourages kind of big swaying movements often, which makes it really hard to get the contact with the ground nice and consistent. So just bring that width of stance in. So basically I am more getting the middle of my feet in line with almost the middle of my thighs. I'm just narrowing that stance off because I want to reduce any kind of temptations to really start swaying around. Then with my pressure, so where I feel I'm leaning in the ground, so am I on front foot or trail foot, what I'm going to do with that slightly narrower stance is feel before I hit the ball that my pressure just gets to my lead foot. So as I pull that club back, I'm going to feel like this pressure is around kind of 70% into lead foot. We're going to go, I've got a great drill on pressure, which we'll come to a bit further on in the video. And then the last thing, let's make sure we get some handle lean. I see lots of amateurs start with the wedge very straight in a pitch shot. So I want you to try and make sure that you've got this shaft lean set as you then establish your hold. And the easiest way to do that is what you're going to notice as I set up. See how I'm just pushing that handle up towards lead leg and then getting my grip assigned to that club. Try not to start with that grip all dead straight. This is not so good for delivering that club to the ground in a way that's going to create those crisp strikes. Ball somewhere towards the buttons, pressure getting up to lead foot with a narrow stance, handle up towards lead leg, and you're ready. Start ripping those pitches in there. As you would expect from the Aros data as well, what we can clearly see from these charts is the scratch player hits the ball closer. Shock, horror. We know, I'm sure most of you watching thinking, of course they do. But we also see from all groups that hitting the golf ball close to the hole on approach shots is the best strategy for most golfers. And we're going to challenge this idea with a special guest who is known for struggling with their wedges and has also personally challenged this idea of getting closer to the hole. But what the graphs clearly show is that the closer you are to that hole from all handicap groups, your proximity tightens. The further away you get from the hole, it is widening. Now we see again that steeper slope off with the higher handicappers, where the scratch handicappers have a shallower or not as steep incline into further away from the hole from the grass. So what can we do extra to really dial in maybe strikes and how you play your wedges, to just tighten them up a little bit more. So let's get these strikes dialed right in. Next tip, this one's really killer. Like, this one absolutely transforms golfers. When I get on my force plates, what I notice is I actually start my swing with more pressure on the trail foot. Now, I know earlier I said get that pressure forward, but what happens is I get my pressure forward as I start my swing. So basically I'm 60-40, so 60 trail to lead, and then I'm literally pushing the pressure forward as I simultaneously pull the club back. So basically I'm kind of going this way as the club goes that way. So it's almost like doing this. And what happens when I do this with students is we see a real good changing of their timing and how their pressure moves through the swing, then in turn how they strike the ground, feeling more ball than ground, often with this movement. Because when you start with your pressure on the lead side, what golfers then start to do as they start their backswing is they push off their lead side. So I know it's counterintuitive, so you want to start with your pressure on lead side, but you want to get it there during the start of your swing. Is a really good tip for anyone trying to really crisp up those strikes. So the best way to do this, feel a little bit of shift in the ground so you can feel that you're trail and lead side with your pressure, and then start a little bit more on this foot, and as soon as you think you're going to instigate the backswing, just push that pressure forwards up onto that lead foot. It's so good for crisping up strikes and making sure we get that lovely ball then ground contact. Next tip is fantastic for distance control as well as strike. Practice getting in the habit of feeling that when your shoulder turn stops, your arm swing stops. So what I do see from a lot of amateurs is kind of arms just burying on beyond how far they've turned their shoulders. So I would feel a distance. If I wanted to hit 50 yards, I'm turning my shoulders that far. If I wanted to hit 100 yards, I'm going to turn my shoulders fuller. And the arms are almost going along for the ride. What happens is it gets all the twitchy feelings out of the arms, makes you feel like you're controlling it more by a rotation and a rotation. And I do find when I do this with students, it's really good for helping them get their distances dialed in. And like I say, you can use it for different distances. If I wanted to hit it 30 yards, I'm turning my shoulders this far, and then 60 yards, I'm about here. So I actually have a system for my wedges, which will be coming to a website that I'm doing really soon. So stay out for that class, because I did the class on myself, and my wedge play is like transformed for distance control. But using your body to try and sync up to your arms for distance is a great feeling for crisper strikes and for controlling that distance. And remember, just try and feel when your shoulders stop that your arms stop too. Get them connected up. And the last one, this one is game changer for striking. Trying to post up on lead side into impact absolutely influences how close or far away the club gets to the ground. So not only influences low point, as in is it forward or back, it also influences if the club is coming higher or lower. And to give you an example of that, two lies here. This lie is nice on the fairway, it's just next to the divot I just hit. This shot, what I'm going to be doing is really posting up on my lead side, so feeling like I'm getting this lead knee to straighten up into impact. I'm really pushing up and out of the ground. It's a great feeling for getting that club into the back of the ball. Now, if I was to put the ball in the divot here where it's down, this is where I might now stay a little bit more in lead knee as I hit the ball, because I've got to get down to this ball a bit more. So playing with how you post or not on lead side on different lies is fantastic for strike. So any shot where you want to stay down a bit more, downhill slope, stay in that lead knee as you hit the ball, and then you'll come up after. Any lies where you want to just really get that crisp ball then divot kind of feel, so flatter lies, really nice tight fairway lies, try and feel that your lead leg is straightening before you hit the ball. Really feel like you're pushing up through lead foot, and you should try and get that to work as your standard shot. So for this shot here, I'm 112 yards, slightly out of distance, but for this club, I'm really going to try and get posting up onto that lead side, and it just delivers such a crisp strike every time. This is something I measured on my force plate, so it was really noticeable with the better strikers to the worst. Worst strikers were just constantly in this knee. Better strikers were using a combination of vertical pressure basically out of this lead knee and staying in it, subject to what I asked them to do. Give this one a practice, your strikes will change. Now, let's get the fun on the way. Special guest time, big experiment, 50 to 100 yards. You're going to enjoy this. So special guest time, we got Rory, good old Rory, who used to play on my channel, and you've seen him a bit on our channel recently. Got him hitting some balls from 50 and 100 yards. I got him to hit 30, this from on the course from 50 and 30 balls from 100 yards. And we were comparing his proximity to test his ideas of, does this work for him? Remember, Rory is someone who, from these distances in certain times of his golfing life, he not had the yips, but he's an extreme case of someone who could fat the ball not very far, fin it, you know, be exceedingly poor with his wedges compared to the rest of his game. Now, I did this test in 2 places as well. I did it indoors at the car. I got an amazing indoor studio which connects to their bar. It's pretty cool. And we also did it on the course because I wanted to see the difference. The 2 differences that I was seeing, first off, on the golf course, his proximity with his wedges from the 2 distances floated kind of between a 15 and 20 index. That's not good enough considering his full game would float much further down towards a 5 to a scratch at time index. Hence he balances around 7, 8, 9, 10. From the indoor studio, where it's friendlier off the mat, he was 15 and just beating his 15 index numbers for proximity. So something to understand for when you're practicing, you are going to be tighter proximity inside often than out because of the variation of lies, as in slopes, and the club reacting with the ground from the mat to the grass can be very different. You can hit ones off a mat where you would fat it on the ground, but it bounces and it actually goes okay indoors. Something to watch out for. But what we noticed is Rory just fitted into these graphs. Even though he is an extreme case, he was noticeably better when he was closer to the hole than further away. He also resembled the steep curve of drop-off as he got further away. As someone who would lay up to holes, try and hit distances, I showed him this data and asked him, what does he think about laying up for a certain distance now?
Yeah, and to be fair, like having, you know, spent lots of time on social media and obviously working with you and watching lots of golf on TV, reading lots of stats, I knew that was the answer anyway, but because I'm so scared of how bad my striking is with these clubs, I tend to run away in the wrong direction when maybe I should be running towards what I perceive to be the trouble.
And then finally I asked him about how this challenges his feelings, because Rory would be someone who wouldn't be looking at data prior until I did this test with him, and what does this make him feel now that we're just presenting the actual data and taking all the feeling, which is what he would play with normally, away from his golfing situation.
Yeah, and also, like, I think it almost puts your mind at ease because it makes decision making a little bit easier on the course, doesn't it? 'Cause instead of thinking, oh, I might have to hit 7-iron and lay back to a full yardage, I can just get to a par 5 or a par 4 and be like, I know what the answer, barring any crazy trouble that I might hit it into. I just need to get the ball down as close to the green as possible, as often as possible, and then try and work it out from there. And obviously strike plays a big part in that as well, but like I said, if I'm kind of duffing shots around the green, that's not as bad as duffing them from back here. Like I've got, what, 120 yards from here, and if I duff one, I've just got the same shot again, and then I'm getting panicky.
If you enjoyed the information in this video and you love the data as well, you're going to love this video if you want to find out how far you should be hitting your driver.